Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast. And we roll along after a couple good nights in the NBA this week. Feeling really good. Had a sweep in the best bets. 3-1 in the play of props. Night before, sweep in the props as well. So we're looking good here as we move forward, getting into the swing of things as we do. We've got best bets in this episode. Also have the play of props up in our other one. So make sure to subscribe to that page and continue to follow along with us all NBA season. Nate, let's stay hot on this little 4-game slate here on Thursday and get right into your first best bet.
Yeah, similar pick to last night. I will stay with the LA team hosting the Orlando Magic. The Magic, a poor road team, as I highlighted, but I'm not taking the points here. I'll just take AD to get 20 and 10, and that gets you even money. Also looking at AD for 25 in the win, which was an angle I played when they were hosting the Jazz. But, you know, the Magic defense certainly has a bit more of a backbone than the Jazz. Maybe they hold him under 25, but they're going to offer a ton of rebounds because this is primarily a fade of Orlando's offense, which I talked about with the Clippers. Great job game planning against them. Not necessarily with the best personnel, but that's just what the Clippers do. They held down the Magic. The Magic just don't win on the road. They can cover, like they could be in this game. But if their offense keeps going the way it was, 39 points in the second half, 37% from the field last night, I don't necessarily see them actually being in within 4 points here. It's just kind of been Brick City the last 11 without Paolo. I mean, a nice stretch, as I highlighted yesterday, against some really bad teams and some really injured teams with Franz going off. And I think Franz has a pretty nice game here. The Lakers don't have many answers for him, but nor do the Magic have answers for AD. Goga Bitadze, he's all right. Wendell Carter's not going to be in there. Maybe they throw out Jonathan Isaac, but like 20 points, he gets that in his sleep in this new JJ Redick system where it's just like feed AD the ball, get him to the line, nearly 12 free throw attempts at home, a 137 offensive rating at home. The Lakers are undefeated at home. They've also won 6 straight with AD back in the lineup after losing to Memphis. Also against poor competition, but rest advantage here for an older team, an Orlando team that, you know, is 88% straight up as a home favorite, 26% as a road dog since last season. I guess those numbers juked a little bit because now it's 2-24 straight up in their last 26, including the playoffs on the road. The offensive rating on the road without Paolo, Josh, 101.5, second worst in the league. They go from 26th in rebounding. They go from 5th at home to 26th in rebounding. Gave up 17 and 12 to Zoo last night. They allowed 33 rebound chances to Moussa Diabate, who played like 24 minutes in a game. So I think AD for the double-double for 20 and 10 is pretty reliable here.
Yeah, I would concur. I think we'll probably be seeing a decent amount of Goga, but I don't think he's going to be putting up stats as he's trying to defend Anthony Davis. After that, you're in trouble. Maybe we see some Jonathan Isaac, perhaps, like you said. Jonathan Isaac, wonderful, incredible defender, darling of the whole media. But I think there's a few players in the NBA he's probably a little bit too light to guard, and one of those would be Anthony Monster Davis. So yeah, I like all this, and if this is how you want to play the Lakers, great. I think the Lakers are a great play in any way that you want to pin them in here as the Magic coming in on a back-to-back, like you said. So let me go under in Detroit. Well, I'm in Charlotte, rather, but I'm banking this on Detroit's defense and a little bit on Charlotte and how they're playing. And I'm going under 221.5. I like that number a good amount here. I thought it might actually be up even a little bit more. It got bet up, which is interesting. And I just disagree. I think Detroit is just a road under kid. Like, I don't know what else you need to know. They're 1-7 against the spread on the road this season. They're a defensive minded team. They're averaging 212 on the road this season as well. Are the Pistons actually with a like plus 0.1 differential. So they're up on these games pretty well on the road as well, playing really well. I do prefer them to win this game in a slight revenge spot after they lost by a point to this team earlier in the season. Charlotte home under as well, 2-5 against the spread against the total when they play in their own building, and -3 to the total there. So they're not failing to cover that total by about 3 points per game. A little bit of a margin there. And I mean, they're at least, I would consider these teams slightly more defensive minded than I would consider them offensive teams, in part because they're not really dynamic on offense, I'll say. Although Detroit, if they get hot, now that they have all their shooters healthy with, Ivy and Beasley and Tim Hardaway Jr. They've got a nice shooting guard rotation that could put up some points, but this Charlotte defense, not that bad, limiting the three. They're actually 10th limiting the corner three. They're 13th overall limiting three-pointers. Detroit is getting a good amount, a little bit below the break, because Cade is really standing up on top of the break for the most part. And while he's putting up those threes, not really shooting it very well. Is more of a volume guy this year. So I'm not really worried about that. And then once you get into the corner, Charlotte a little bit better there. They do defend the corner three well. So I think that's a lot of what this comes down to is both these teams not playing with pace. 20th for Charlotte. This is not the same Charlotte team playing at like a wacky high pace. Detroit 22nd. They're a very methodical. I mean, they're JB Bickerstaff. They took on the identity of their coach. They're playing a lot better defense on the perimeter, and they're playing a lot more like concentrated on offense, where not quite as many fast breaks. Neither of these teams getting out into transition very much, and actually trying to run a set offense in the half court around a very good upcoming player in Cade Cunningham, who's already established himself this season as like a 23-6-6 guy, right? So I think there's plenty of reason to believe that Charlotte is going to be able to limit Detroit, and even more reason, in my opinion, that Detroit's going to be able to limit Charlotte.
Yeah, I mean, and LaMelo does not come in hot. That's the thing here is like if he's not flamethrower from deep, like Charlotte is not scoring many points. They don't have much else going for them. Detroit did a pretty good job on him last time. He was benched against the Nets. We'll see how he responds to that. And I don't know what JB does with his offense. Like it's just like a million Cade pick and rolls. He's very inefficient. So yeah, I don't see either team like necessarily lighting it up. Like you said, there could be an outlier 3-point shooting performance here, but like these are pretty gross offenses. So I'll take the Raptors at home here, +7 or 7.5 at some books. Scotty Barnes is coming back, I think. It sounds like he's good to go. His quotes were pretty optimistic in terms of like, look, this was a face injury. I'm going to play with a mask, and I've been in shape. Like it's not like I had a knee injury where I couldn't, run or ride the bike. Like I'm going to be good to go. So probably a full amount of minutes here. You got Pirtle and Rudy. And those guys almost cancel each other out. In fact, Pirtle got the better of Rudy in the last 2 years with the Raptors, +20, and they were both wins for the Raptors. Then they lose in Minnesota by 11 to open the season, or one of the first games of the season. No RJ Barrett in that one. RJ coming in hot. The Raptors now back home, another team that is very stark home road stuff, right? I mean, they just basically punted the entire West Coast road trip when they were out there, and it's just like, whoa, are they tanking? No, it's like they just need a little bit of backing from the north, and they routinely cover big numbers at home. 7 straight, in fact, against this number since getting blown out in the opener against Cleveland. Their net rating -2.5, not great, but a lot better than -8 on the road. Score 9 more a game. The pace is up 5 possessions to 101, so definitely lean to the over here too, because part of the cap is that this Wolves defense, it's not it. Like, I mean, they bounced back after the embarrassment in Portland, the back-to-back losses, but still a 121 defensive rating, still hemorrhaging paint points, 5th most paint points on the year. They have a good 3-point defense, but with Barnes back, RJ getting in the lane, Davion Mitchell playing well, I think the Raptors have a decent inside-out attack here to keep pace. And DiVincenzo and Conley both questionable. So I would worry about the Wolves offense if either or both of those guys are gone. Definitely if Conley's gone, that could be a problem in terms of organization. And look, it's just Raptors at home. They're feistier.
Yeah, I don't like Minnesota at all. They're going to have to show me something before I start believing in them as anything even close to what they were last year. See Cat dominating over there. Maybe they could use him. But either way, yeah, I like this look here. And you've been on these sides really well, taking advantage of these contextual situations that lead to a nice little angle. So I do like the Raptors, and I hate the Wolves more than I even like the Raptors, to be honest, which is a lot of what you brought up. But let me go to a guy we're both eyeing here. Former champion, UConn great, Stephon Castle, maybe just one season, but that man was a stud. He still is, to be honest, and he's coming into his own. I mean, it's going to take another year or so for him to look like any kind of polished, probably 2 years, to look more like a polished NBA player. In the meantime, he can go ahead and rely on athleticism and size and mismatches, but let's take him for a little SGP here. And there's some weird stuff going on with Castle's lines because he's at about 14.5 points on most books and like 3.5 or 4.5 assists. So here's the weird part. I tried to parlay 4+ assists with 10+ points for him. I actually get worse odds than if I just take 4 assists for him. It's really weird, and there's clearly something weird with the parlay odds on DraftKings especially. But I'm going to take him for 10+ points and 4+ dimes on FanDuel for -117. Really conservative, but I'm fine with it. If you wanted to get a little bit crazier, you put him up to 15 points. Chris Paul's playing. Devin Vassell's not. Jeremy Sohan is not. Victor Wembanyama is not. And we're going to be looking at a decent amount. And Zach Collins is questionable, was the other thing. We might be looking at Zach Collins, but we might not as well. So something to keep in mind, just one less guy out there to take some stuff from Stephon Castle. And CP3 will be playing alongside him. I have no problem with that. I think CP3 and playing alongside Stephon Castle, it's not awesome. It's clunky because of Castle's lack of shooting at times. But at the same time, like, this is going to be a team that gets out in transition against Utah. And that's where I like Stephon Castle to get it and go. If you wanted to add the rebounds, I'm not even that worried about it. I have a different rebound play in the player props for the Spurs, but I still like Castle for the dimes especially. I think those are what's super low. You look at when he's played without Vassell this season. Had 10 points in all 4 games, but the assists are what stand out to you as more consistent, about 5 assists per game in those situations. You add Wemby being out, and he got the 8 on 14 potentials in their last game when they beat OKC a couple of nights ago, right? So I like that to continue. He's very important for that. He's going to be important against a Utah team that's going to have Colin Sexton and Keontae George, some athletic and quick guards. I think he's going to obviously be huge to be guarding that, because if you have CP3 with Malachi Branham essentially in your backcourt, you're in trouble on defense for sure. So I think Castle needs to be out there. That's why I like the 30 minutes for him. You give him the 30+ minutes. He's hit this in all 4 of those games, right, where he had at least 10 and the 4 dimes. And like I said, if you're just playing one, the dimes are a great look by themselves, but you're going to have to either drink some juice or play it on the cusp and get like some plus money for a little bit of a high number. So I like this little SGP here.
Yeah, that's what I found with his assist number as well. I'll get into that with player props. But yeah, I mean, plus 130 for him to get 5 dimes, like you said, that's tempting right there.
That could be it.
I'm also fine adding the Spurs money line here to get to plus money, because, like, I mean, Jazz fourth game of the road trip. It's a Utah team that doesn't really ever bring it on the road, and the Spurs trying to get some revenge after losing by 1. I know they're down some guys here, but, like, I'm not trusting Utah, and Castle and Champagne when he's out there are defensive dogs, man. Like, that Sexton and Clarkson are not going to have an easy time here if Markkanen's not healthy and cooking. Like, the Jazz are not going to be able to outscore this team, so I think the Spurs are probably going to be good to get the win.
And probably bank on their D, to your point. So I like that as well, and maybe even looking at a bit of an under. But yeah, the only thing I'd be careful with is there are at least some vets on the other side. Like John Collins will be out there, Markkanen will be out there. We'll see how much they're taking it seriously. I do think those are going to be 2 of the best players on the floor, honestly, which is the only thing that scares me about. But I believe in this Spurs team way more, so no qualms with that. But either way, that's all the time we have for you. In Best Bets, make sure to subscribe to that page so you can check out Player Props as well. And until we see you next, happy betting.